We are on track for the three-step process to be completed in July, and today we made some important decisions to change elements of that third step. The first of those is, as you look across the third step, you will note a series of caps for indoor gatherings of 100. And that can be anything from funerals through to the number of people who can be in a premises or even in a room such as this. That 100 cap for step 3 across all of those areas will be removed, and it will be replaced by a 4 square metre rule application to those premises. So depending on how large your premise is, and that 4 square metre rule applies to each room within that premise. And you'll note that around this building, you'll certainly note it in my office. There's a number of people who are allowed to be in that room at any one time based on the 4 square metre rule. Now that will mean obviously for much larger premises that will provide much greater scope. Now this is not happening immediately. This is part of step 3. So states and territories who are making decisions about when they're moving to that step 3, that they will now be moving based on the policy of 4 square metres being applied, and those caps of 100 for a particular building, they won't be in place. It'll be determined on that basis. 4 square metre rule by room. Now the 4 square metre rule continues to be reviewed by the AHPPC, the medical expert panel, and further work is being done on that, particularly for much smaller premises. Also, for outdoor events, for outdoor organised events, sporting, cultural, we will be moving as part of step 3 for events in stadia or other venues of that nature with a capacity of 40,000 or less to enable attendance at those events which are ticketed and are seated. So all the social distancing rules apply for up to 25% of the capacity of those venues to take patrons. Now, there will be further work done over the next fortnight. This is not something that's happening straight away. This is something that would be happening as part of step 3, where states and territories choose to move to that, and it will require a bit more work, so that's in July, but we have to give venues and others time to prepare for that sort of change. And I think that will be welcomed. Issues that have to be then addressed is access to the wet areas of those stadia, the bars and so on, and I have no doubt there will be some view about restrictions on those because they tend to be the areas where people would congregate and gather, and that obviously presents risk. But when we're talking about people who have bought a ticket, so we know who's bought a ticket, we know where they're seated, then that enables those sorts of gatherings to take place in that structured way. Now that would of course extend to outdoor festivals where they are ticketed and where they are seated. So if we're talking about sort of large folk festivals where people sort of roam around from tent to tent and gathering to gathering, that is not something that is being talked about here. It would have to be a large open area, there would need to be seats at the appropriate distance, it would need to be ticketed, and so people would be able to understand who was in attendance at that event.